As we wrap up Black History Month, the focus this year for Black History 2022 is on the health of the African American or Black health. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, health is neither black nor white. Health is health. But unfortunately, it is in the literature that African Americans are disproportionately affected by so many illnesses. I'm going to allow you to do the research, but several illnesses that you mentioned or that we know about affect Blacks differently and at a higher rate than they do our Caucasian partners. I will add that the Hispanic population and the African American population have similar statistics when it comes to some of the more common illnesses. I will tell you that breast cancer is seen more among Caucasian women, but African American women die more from breast cancer. So having said that, I want us to talk a little bit tonight about what we can do for African Americans to improve their health status and how they deal with prevention. And we must acknowledge that there's a lot of fear and distrust. Every time you talk about Black health, you're going to hear about the Tuskegee trials and the injustices that were done there. I dare say that even the fear of getting the COVID vaccine among some of our African American brothers and sisters is related to some of those injustices of the past. And the fact that they don't trust the mainstream healthcare system. So how are we going to make things different for Blacks in this health system? Well, one of the things we need to do is have more Blacks, more African Americans participate in the fields that are related to health and that contribute to the health of African Americans. So we have efforts in the community and in higher academia to encourage African Americans to get into the health field, whether it's at the nursing level, the medical level, the technician level, at levels that affect access to healthcare for African Americans and that deliver a superior level of healthcare for African Americans. If you cannot trust your health provider, who are you going to trust? And what's the use in accessing care if you're doubting that your healthcare provider really cares about you? One of the things that's my pet peeve as an African American healthcare provider is when my patients go to see practitioners who are not of the same culture, and they come back and share with me the stereotypical response that they get from providers who are not of the same culture as they are, suggesting they cannot do any better. That breaks my heart. And I challenge my patients to let's prove them wrong. So I take on the task of helping these patients to make little changes in what they do, so that when they go back to see that provider, if they have to see that consultant, they will shock them that I made a difference. I did something different, and I was able to help myself and to help my health care and being healthy and making wise choices. In respect to that, we must respect the cultures that our African Americans come from, whether it's from the Caribbean or they're born here or they're from Africa or different parts of the world that have African American, African descent people. And they come here and they're part of the American culture, part of the fiber of America, and they bring those ancestral, cultural, healthcare things to their own being. And then they go into the mainstream healthcare, and they feel devalued. That is not appropriate. And I want to encourage our African American patients, human beings who need healthcare, to value what you are taught by your ancestors, by your parents, by those who brought you up. Value what you receive and do the right education so you can incorporate what is good and learn to weed out some of the things that may not be so beneficial in the culture you live in now. The first thing I want to ask you to do is find a healthcare provider that you can trust, that you feel comfortable with, that you believe is listening to what you have to say to them. Because the patient is the one who knows their body the best. And you need to have a healthcare provider who is not rushing you, shutting you up, or telling you they know best. When you're the one who knows what you're feeling, knows your body, knows what you're going through. And as much as I'm speaking to the African American person right now in the concept of Black health, I think it applies to all of us. So before I talk about some of the diseases that we as African Americans can tackle by ourselves and we're responsible for, I'm going to ask the ladies at the table to share what they think about what I've already spoken about. Black health and being able to have a provider that you feel understands you. While Laura may not be of the darker hue, I guarantee you she may have something in her background that relates to the concept of what we're talking about. So I'll start with Venoria and then we'll go to Laura.
So my take on what you just said, especially the part where you talked about choosing the right provider, something to that effect. I mean, I think it's whether you're Black or white, Hispanic or what, you definitely should choose the right provider. And like you said, knowing your own body, you should be able to. When I go to my doctor, I tell my doctor what is going on with me, right? That's how it should be. You can't let the doctor dictate and tell you what is going on with you because your doctor don't know you better than you. I remember when I was, I think, when I was pregnant with my last child, I had a doctor, my GYN, OB-GYN, and as you guys can tell, I'm very extroverted, and this doctor was more like an introvert. However, I do believe that I need to have a relationship with my provider. So it cannot be just like you ask a question and they just give you the answer and that's it. You have to have that relationship, especially if you're pregnant.
Right, can't be a transaction.
Exactly. So 4 or 5 months down the road, I switched. I had to chose a different provider because I do not think that I was getting the support or the insight that I needed from this provider. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be my best friend, but we have to have some kind of relationship as a doctor and a patient.
What do you think, Laura?
So I think that we definitely have to have a relationship with the providers that we are with. In addition to that, I think that not just beyond questioning, I think we need to also follow our intuition.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is when I was a first-time mom and my daughter was just a few months old, in my eyes, she was very sick. And I took her to the pediatrician and they told me first-time jitters, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. I went back again. I went the third time. And when I went the third time, she was like, you need to stop coming back here. There is nothing wrong with your child. She just has the sniffles. You're a first-time mom. I'm the pediatrician. I know what's best. And I just felt, even though I was a first-time mom, there was something wrong with my child. So I called another pediatrician, and I went to see that pediatrician, and that pediatrician told me, run to the ER right now.
Wow.
And I said, what's wrong? And she said to me, your child is very ill, needs immediate attention. Thankfully, the ER was across the street from where her office was. And I said, well, this other pediatrician told me this 3 times this last week. And she said, I don't know why she was doing that. I'm glad you followed your intuition. Run to the hospital. Don't stop for anything. Get over there right now. When I got there, my daughter started turning blue. And thankfully, my mom was with me. And I'm holding my daughter, trying to get her to breathe. My mom's running to get help. My daughter had severe RSV. And literally, she could have died.
I'm sorry.
Respiratory, I can't remember it right now, but it's basically a respiratory illness.
Virus.
It's a virus that starts to give you a lot of mucus and starts to clog your ability to breathe.
And if you're little like she is,
Yes.
she cannot clear her airways.
Yes, and so she was only a few months old. So we ended up in the hospital for a few days, literally them having to suction mucus out of her. So not only was I just establishing a relationship that never fully established because my daughter was a few months old, but had I not followed my intuition and sought alternate care, we would be having a totally different conversation today. So I think, yes, you should seek to establish a relationship. You should ask questions and be informed, and you should follow your gut.
That's right.
If you're being not listened to by your provider, change providers.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you straight up that if you listen to your patient long enough and let them tell the story of what they're going through, they will tell you the diagnosis. They may not know the term, the medical term. You, as a provider, because you're educated, will know the medical term. But if you just let them tell you their story, they'll tell you the diagnosis. And so we're taught to listen. There's no rush. There's no money-making business. It's about listening to the story of the patient who comes to you. And we're supposed to respect that and value that. So having said that, my dear African-American brothers and sisters out there, I'm going to challenge you. And here's the challenge. In this year, 2022, I'm going to challenge you to take care of your own health. Your physical health, your mental health, your social health, your spiritual health. Health is holistic. So it's easy for us to talk about physical health. We do not like to talk about mental health. We do not like to talk about emotional health. And we think we're okay with social health. So let's address them very briefly, very quickly. First, with physical health, African Americans typically are obese or overweight. And I'll tell you straight up that to control your weight is to control many diseases, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, some cancers, arthritis. I won't keep on naming all the different conditions you can control and prevent if you simply reduce your body weight. Get rid of the obesity and being overweight. It's not easy, it's difficult, but anything worth doing is hard sometimes. So I want to challenge you in this 2022 to move more. Dance, swim, bike, play some kind of sport, walk. Just walk. If you can't do anything else, get out and walk 5 days a week for 30 minutes. And that is going to help you to develop your heart, to strengthen your heart, to lose weight, to get rid of the diabetes or control it, and to control your cholesterol. I will advise you that if you smoke, get rid of it. You're not doing your lungs a favor. You're not taking care of your internal environment.
Or if you vape.
Vaping is the same as smoking as far as I'm concerned. Get rid of it, okay? And then control your diet. So I have a saying, don't mean to offend anybody. Once we were slaves without choice. Now we are slaves by choice. We become a slave to the foods we love. So many times patients tell me, but I love that. I love my food. I get it, but you don't have to be a slave to it. Small amounts, moderation, bring it down. Cut your portions. Don't make your plates bigger, make them smaller. Don't pile things on top of each other. Give each thing its space. Half your plate should be vegetables. Please don't tell me you don't like vegetables. There has to be a vegetable you like, okay? And the dark green leafy vegetables are the best, unless your doctor tells you you can't have those for some other reason. Half your plate needs to be vegetables, and the other half, a quarter of it for your protein, and a quarter of it for a little bit of starch. Less processed foods. Let's stop making people rich at the expense of our health. You don't need juices. Please stop buying them. Don't waste your money on juices. Eat your fruits. God made the fruit. Pick one and eat it. Stop drinking 8 ounces of orange juice. You just had 20 oranges. You wouldn't do that in reality. So cut that out. Don't waste your money and make other people rich at the expense of your health. I'm speaking to my black brothers and sisters here. Come on now, okay? Get rid of the juices, get rid of the sodas. You really want to have that carbonated feeling? Drink some seltzer water. Put some lemon in it. Put a twist of mint in it. It's delicious. Put ginger in it. Ooh, you have your own ginger seltzer water. So let's try and do some healthy things this year. Less fried foods, less frying. Use your air fryer. Use the grill. Don't kill everything with barbecue sauce. It's full of sugar. Let's take charge of our own health and not become slaves to the food we eat. Let us be in charge of our food and our food's not be in charge of us. It's tough, but we can do this. Okay? Would you like to say something, Venoria?
Everyone does not have an air fryer.
That's okay. If you don't have an air fryer, stick it in the oven. Stick it in the oven. Okay? Dry heat, moist heat. That's all you need to cook with. I still have patients who say, you can't use a little olive oil. No, you don't need any olive oil. You can use moist heat, which is on the top, steaming or boiling, or dry heat, grilling or baking or broiling. Okay? So that's about physical health. Spiritual health, all of us believe that there has to be something bigger than you and I. Earth is too beautiful. Nature, that is, not that the evil people do. Our bodies are so beautiful. The things that we're able to do that we take for granted, somebody had to do this. There has to be a master designer behind all of the beauty that we see in nature and in ourselves, the uniqueness of every human being. So I'm going to invite you to find your spiritual place. If you feel lost, try Jesus. Give him a chance in your life. Okay, maybe you don't believe in Jesus. Try God. Just go to the Father and let the Father lead you to the truth. There's some beauty in that because, you see, we believe in one God. We don't have 3 gods as evangelical Christians. We believe in one God. And if you go to God, he will lead you to the truth. So let me invite you to invest some quality time in the spiritual aspect of your being so that you can feel whole and you can feel purposeful. Let's do that this year. Emotionally, mentally, you may need to have a little tune-up with a mental health therapist. I recently told a patient that I wanted her to see a mental health person. You know what her first response to me was? Are you saying I'm crazy? No, I'm saying that sometimes obesity has a lot to do with psychology and what we're going through. How many of us stress eat? How many of us are depressed so we eat? How many of us are tired so we eat? That's called comfort eating. How many of us feel sick, so we're going to eat? I need some chocolate. I need some rice. And we're eating all the wrong things. Or we need cake and ice cream to comfort us. Let us make decisions that help us. So for the emotional and the psychological needs, I highly recommend you finding a good mental health therapist. And there are ways to find good mental health therapists. It can be through your insurance, or you can go on the computer and find a good one, or you can ask your friend, or call me through gwenrichment.com, and we'll help you find a good one. I make you that promise. I'll help you find a good therapist. Okay? Every year you should get a mental health checkup just to make sure you're doing okay. What do you think, ladies? What do you think about that?
I think it's definitely important to have the checkups and to check on your physical, your mental, your spiritual, all of that. You know, if we take our cars to get serviced, why wouldn't we take ourselves to get serviced? Is the way I look at it. I am curious about something you said, and that is at the start of the podcast, you were talking about how sometimes we go to providers that don't understand our culture. What is it that some of those, like if some of these providers are listening, what could they do to educate themselves, and why is there that void or you know, that inability to understand the cultural differences from a health perspective?
Because we're human beings. And people are scared of other cultures. They're not educated enough about certain cultures, so they don't understand the things that affect some people. African Americans are very strong in ancestral respect. And so whatever their parents taught them, their grandparents taught them. We have other cultures like that. Our Asian cultures are like that also. The Hispanic culture is like that also. So we tend to go to what our parents taught us and our grandmothers taught us before we run to mainstream healthcare. Whereas our Caucasian brothers and sisters, they go straight to the mainstream healthcare. You know, we tend to, the Hispanics, the Asians, the African Americans tend to have a spiritual concept of what's happening to us, and that we have no control over it. We're destined to be on this journey of health. Our Caucasian brothers and sisters said, there's a problem here, get rid of it. And they don't dwell in why me, how could this happen to me, what is God trying to teach me? They don't have time for that. Right. They go straight to the doctor and say, cut it out, I want it gone. What medicine do I need to take? Give it to me. We dwell and we pine and we pity and we wonder and we ponder. Get up, go get rid of the problem. So the first thing is to have that relationship so that you have somebody to go and talk to. You can detect things earlier so you can attack them sooner to get rid of them. So that's what I mean. And sometimes when we feel that the person we're talking to doesn't understand what we're saying, we don't share all the information because we feel insecure. So we need, as providers, to listen. We need to ask questions about that culture. As much as I am dark in the color of my skin, I don't understand everything about African American culture in America. So I ask questions. And I love to hear about cultural things that my patients do. And then I negotiate with them. And that comes from theory in my nursing education, where you learn to negotiate some cultural things. I remember once as an ICU nurse, I had a family who wanted to bring a dove into the room. How were we going to do that in an ICU?
Right.
Well, let me tell you, we made it happen. They needed to bring a bird in, a dove that would take whatever out. That's their cultural belief. We made it happen. We gave them 5 minutes. Do it fast. They came in, they did what they had to do and took that thing out. And they felt they were taking the evil out that was affecting their loved one. We have to be willing to negotiate. If my patient tells me they want to drink bush teas and leaves, it's not my place to say, don't do that. I want to find how you can do it safely without impacting your liver. And so I'll have that conversation. I love Vicks Vapor Rub. I think it's important. We all, if you're from the islands, your parents rubbed Vicks Vapor Rub on you. Okay?
Well, us too.
That's my point. The Hispanics believe in Vicks Vapor Rub.
Yes.
And I still believe in Vicks Vapor Rub, and I prescribe it for my patients. If they don't like the smell of it, I tell them try icy hot or biofreeze. It's the same thing, menthol. It
Menthol.
just smells different.
Yes.
But I'm a Vicks Vapor Rub girl for everything. Pain. You remember that big fat Greek wedding? And
Yes,
he used
and
to
the
put
Windex.
Windex on everything? Well, I put Vicks Vapor Rub on everything. If my toe hurts, I rub it with Vicks Vapor Rub. And it works, okay? So find what it is in your culture that's important, that is safe. Have the conversation. Don't be afraid to tell your healthcare provider what you do at home from your parents, from your grandparents that worked for you, and talk about it with them and figure it out. If they don't understand it, find another healthcare provider.
The only thing I would say, going back to, because it is Black health you're talking about, going back to mental health, you do know that for some reason there's a stigma, it's stigmatized in the Black community, especially when it comes to men. They do not believe in seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Like you said, they think that you're crazy. If you go there, just to listen to your provider, have a conversation, they feel that something is wrong with you. So how does the Black culture get over that stigma?
Conversation with your primary care. If your primary care really cares about your mental health, they're going to find a way to introduce you to a mental health therapist without you feeling the stigma. And I must tell you that I pride myself with the ability to do that. You'd be surprised how many of my male patients will go and see a therapist. Sometimes I ask them just one visit, just do one visit. Now, I do agree with you. There are some who you cannot convince. But I believe that the relationship with my patient should be developed to a place where I can safely say to my patient, I've done the best I can. I think you could benefit just one session. Just do 2 sessions. And if you don't think it's working, then you can walk away from it. And I've had much older men who have said, okay, I'll try. And I've had younger men who says, I think I really need it. I'm going to try. And so I help them to find someone. And I tell them, if it's not the fit for you, we'll find somebody else. But I think it starts with the relationship you have with your primary care to be able to build that relationship. So, thank you for listening to us tonight. Black health is important. We should never feel that we don't deserve the best health care that there is to offer. Find the healthcare provider that you can connect with, who can connect you to all the healthy things you need to do. Take responsibility for your own health. Ask the questions you need to ask if you need to, and then do the things you need to do. And there are only 2 things I'm really asking you to do this year. Eat less, eat mindfully, move more, and seek spiritual and mental health. That's 3 things. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We love you. We cherish you. We cherish our African American brothers and sisters. And we cherish all people as God's gift, God's creation, God's beauty. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
So make sure you reach out to us. We always love to hear from you, and you can reach out to us at gwenrichment.com. Take care.